Fuck it. Welcome to episode 13. Past the 90-day mark, huh? Episode 13, the Proper Gentleman's Club. With me, your host, James Taylor. Today I want to... So there's a couple videos that I posted on my TikTok, and then... One second. There's a couple videos that I posted on my TikTok and my YouTube yesterday that I wanted to kind of expound on a little bit, because there's a I think we need to understand a little bit more what admiration is, right? And admiration for me, and this is my personal thing, I think the 5 keys to building a strong and healthy relationship are still very much viable. But admiration to me is the biggest key to whether a relationship right off the bat will have success. And so if you look up what admiration is, the definition is admiration is a feeling of respect and warm approval towards someone or something. It often involves recognizing qualities or achievements that are impressive or worthy of respect. For example, you might feel admiration for a friend's dedication to their work or for a beautiful piece of art, of course. Admiration can also be a source of inspiration, motivating us to improve ourselves by learning from those we admire. It's a positive emotion that helps build connections and appreciation in our relationships and experiences. And the reason why it's so important, well, actually, let me divert for a second into what my videos were about. And I made a couple videos because I saw a thread posted by a woman who wanted to know from guys what is a good reason that she should say yes to going out on a date with a guy if he were to ask. I thought about that question for way longer than I should have, realizing that there's no actual reason that a guy can give that a woman would say yes, especially to a guy that she doesn't know. Which brings us to the second thing. If she doesn't know the guy, there's hardly a chance. Well, it's rare that a guy should take the chance to ask a woman that he doesn't know out on a date. It makes no sense. You don't know if there's going to be chemistry. You don't know the person. You don't know what they're about, what they're into, how they live their life. And there's no reason to try to find that out in one date, right? Which is a segue into this admiration. So let's go over the 5 keys again, which are mutual admiration, mutual interest, mutual desire for connection, and then your ability, your availability and your capacity. And availability can be looked at as if you are on a dating app, and let's say you're a woman, for instance, because this doesn't happen for guys. Let's say you're a woman and you've got all these suitors trying to get your attention or in your inbox on the dating app. You're not available, not emotionally, and you may not even have the time because you're texting so many people. As a guy, I would want to know that I'm one of very few, if not the only, that you would have interest in. 2 is capacity. So you can look at capacity as, let's say you work 10-hour days, 4 days a week, and then you work a second job on the weekends, and then you have a dog, and let's say you take care of your mom on Sundays. Your capacity and availability are like way low in terms of, if you compare them to me, who has a job and I do this. I write I'm making content. I have capacity and availability in terms of sustaining and putting time and effort into a relationship. Okay. Which takes us back to the very first thing, which is mutual admiration, a feeling of respect and warm approval towards someone or something. It often involves recognizing qualities or achievements that are impressive or worthy of respect. And here's the thing about admiration. In my very first video, I actually went over this. Ayn Rand, The Virtue of Selfishness. And I know people hate that word, and it's fine. I get it. It sounds terrible when you say it, but when you think about it, what that means to be selfish is to be interested in one's self. That doesn't mean that you're not interested in other people, but you are interested in yourself first. Now, I want to go over a passage from this. This is from the chapter, The Psychology of Pleasure, page 76. And she's talking about the 5 pleasures that man gets to enjoy in life. And this is probably the one that set me off on this trip of becoming a gentleman, because there's so many things involved that man can enjoy that have nothing to do with women. Now, a woman can be a big part of enjoyment, as can be for a woman if she finds a good man. But here's the key. Of the various pleasures that man can offer himself, the greatest is pride, which is the pleasure he takes in his own achievements and in the creation of his own character. Wow, that's so interesting, right? Because admiration is a feeling of respect and warm approval towards someone or something. It often involves recognizing qualities or achievements that are impressive or worthy of respect. Interesting, because this next sentence says, the pleasure he takes in the character and achievements of another human being is that of admiration. So admiration is pride that we feel towards another person. But of the various pleasures that man can offer himself, the greatest is pride. The pleasure he takes in his own achievements and in the creation of his own character. We have to sit on that for a second, because you're telling me that out of all the pleasures, and if I go back real quick, she says there are 5 broadly interconnected areas that allow man to experience the enjoyment of life: productive work, human relationships, recreation, art, and sex. The funny thing is, when she's talking about pleasures, pride is not included as a thing in an area, meaning that pride is a part of one of these areas of productive work, human relationships, recreation, art, and sex. So one more time, of the various pleasures that man can offer himself, obviously there's a lot of pleasures, but there's 5 interconnected areas that can bring man the enjoyment of life. Out of the various pleasures that man can offer himself, the greatest is pride, the pleasure he takes in his own achievements and in the creation of his own character. And the pleasure that he takes in the character and achievements of another human being is that of admiration. And this is the most beautiful part. And again, I said this in an earlier video, but it's good that I say it again now. The highest expression of the most intense union of these 2 responses, pride and admiration, it just hits home every time for me. The highest expression of the most intense union of these 2 responses, pride in oneself and pride or admiration for another, is romantic love. And the celebration of romantic love is sex, which is one of the 5 interconnected areas that can bring man enjoyment of life. And I'm just going to keep going here. It is in this sphere above all, and a man's romantic sexual responses, that his view of himself and of existence stands eloquently revealed. A man falls in love with and sexually desires the person who reflects his own deepest values. And I'm going to just let that cook for a second. Because while we're doing this, let's look at what are values. And what we see here is values are, if you just type it in real quick, values are guiding principles that shape our behavior, decisions, and perceptions of what is important in life. Values are guiding principles that shape our behavior, decisions, and perceptions of what is important in life. They reflect what we consider to be right, fair, and worthwhile. Values can be deeply personal and vary widely from person to person. There are instrumental values. These are about desirable ways to act or behave, such as being honest, responsible, or loving. And then there's terminal values, those that are desirable end states like health, freedom, or family and security. Instrumental and terminal values. A man falls in love with and sexually desires the person who reflects his own deepest values. The pleasure he takes in his own achievements and in the creation of his own character is pride. The pleasure he takes in the character and achievements of another human being is that of admiration. The highest expression of the most intense union of these two responses, pride and admiration, is romantic love. Its celebration is sex. It is in this sphere above all, in a man's romantic sexual responses, that his view of himself and of existence stands eloquently revealed. A man falls in love with and sexually desires the person who reflects his own deepest values. Pride and admiration will go hand in hand in just how strong your relationship is. And as I continue here, there are two crucial respects in which a man's romantic sexual responses are psychologically revealing: in his choice of partner and in the meaning to him of the sexual act. A man of self-esteem, a man in love with himself and with life, feels an intense need to find human beings he can admire, to find a spiritual equal whom he can love. The quality that will attract him most is self-esteem. Self-esteem in an unclouded sense of the value of existence. To such a man, sex is an act of celebration. Its meaning is a tribute to himself and to the woman he has chosen. The ultimate form of experiencing concretely and in his own person the value and joy of being alive. The need for such an experience is inherent in man's nature, but if a man lacks the self-esteem to earn it, he attempts to fake it, and he chooses his partner, subconsciously, by the standard of her ability to help him fake it, to give him the illusion of a self-value he does not possess and of a happiness he does not feel. The same principle, of course, applies to a woman's romantic sexual choices. The sexual act has a different meaning for the person whose desire is fed by pride and admiration, to whom the pleasurable self-experience it affords is an end in itself, and for the person who seeks in sex the proof of masculinity or femininity, or the amelioration of despair, or a defense against anxiety, or an escape from boredom. As I set out on this second part of my life to discover my talents, my gifts, what drives me, who I really am, not this skin, not what I'm doing, not my job. There is a development of my character that I'm aiming to build, create. And I can see others clearly now through that lens, and not through the lens of trying to have my own ego stroked for proof that I'm doing the right thing or that I am somebody the way that I used to. There are relationships that have faded. There are relationships that have been deleted and gone. And now I find myself in the midst of a silence, a quietness, a quiet confidence, as now I no longer seek approval from people, because that's also an act of self sabotage now. And this admiration, for me, and we can just talk about it, because here's the other thing about admiration. The coolest part about this is that because that's such a big key, you can actually tell yourself, you want to know the real list that you should have when you're looking at the type of person, not only who you are, but the type of person that reflects your deepest values. One, you can look at yourself, right? And ask yourself, what are things that you admire about yourself? And I honestly, I guess I'm doing this for the first time, because I never thought about, we treat ourselves so badly. We don't value ourselves. We speak to ourselves so wrongly. And the emotion that this is evoking, because I've never thought about, excuse me, the things that I admire in myself. I've always looked to other people to see the things that I admire. And we put these people on a pedestal, and we look to please these people, to have our own ego stroked. And we self-sabotage because we don't love ourselves. What I admire in myself, if I'm going through this exercise before I complete this here, that I have a desire to give back to humanity, that I exercise certain amounts of discipline, that I set goals for myself, that I take care of my health, that I try to get to bed at the same time every night, that I have a sleep routine, that I have a morning routine, that I work out, that I eat properly, that I'm not obsessed with food. And those, I mean, obviously you can go down the list, right? But I find myself, those are also things that I like. One of the biggest things that I admire in a woman is a woman who can get up in the morning, not necessarily even work out. She's just able to deny herself the desire for more sleep or to lay in bed, which is more comfortable, right? You talk to any woman, they love laying in bed, or they'll tell you that. And so I deeply admire a woman who can resist that urge for comfort, because that tells me that she's able to resist those desires that could harm a relationship. She can execute discipline. She can say no. She can turn her back on those things that are not good for her. And that's probably one of the biggest things, one of the biggest keys for me, because I do that and I can execute that. And, you know, as we wrap up here, think about those things that you admire in yourself. And if you don't admire anything in yourself, that your sense of self-esteem, which comes from the pride in your achievements and the development of your own character. If you don't have any pride in yourself, you don't have any self-esteem, and your relationships that you get in will be so that you can have that sense of masculinity or femininity through how someone is treating you, talking to you, the attention that they're giving you. And so again, all the way back to how we started this, what's a good reason for a woman to say yes to going on a date with you when she doesn't know you? And the answer is there is no good reason. Because the reason that a woman would go on a date with you is because she has an interest in getting to know this person that she admires. Without admiration, you can't celebrate the union of pride in oneself and one's own achievements, and the admiration that you have in another person who reflects your deepest values the celebration of that union being romantic love, and the celebration of romantic love being sex. All right, we've reached 20 minutes. I try not to go over 20 minutes. That, excuse me for my emotions earlier. You guys have a great rest of the week. I love you all. Not sure what we've got in tune for next week, but this was week 13, the Proper Gentlemen's Club with James Taylor, your host. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have a great day, and see you next week.